Welcome everybody to another edition of Operations 101. In this episode, I'm going to take you through an experiment or some things I'm thinking through tied into previous episodes. And the overlying theme I've had when you're running solo is just to slow down, enjoy the ride, and at least be aware of some of the prototypical practices in terms of what the crew would actually be doing. And it's really an individual matter which ones you represent and which ones you do not. For me personally, the big ones are going to be allowing time for the conductor to walk, three-step protection when they're between cars, and setting the brake wheels. And the issue becomes, how do you represent those activities? I've played around with props, artificial brake wheels, and at least for me personally, it's just too much. I don't care for it. So I'm trying to come up with a middle ground in terms of how you can represent these types of activities by the crew without it being too much like a game board, which I just find a little bit on the hokey side. And what I'm experimenting with is using sound players or using audio to represent at least a few of these steps, specifically brake wheels and three-step. And you just push a button and you get a several-second clip of audio of what's actually happening on the prototype. And so that's what I'm going to be showing you today. The trick to make this work is to keep it simple. I'm very aware of what accessory decoders can do, and they may have a play in this, but it's a lot of button pushing, and you really want this to be sort of an instant gratification. Push a button, the event happens, and you're on to the next. So having said that, let's jump right into it. Now for this audio prop concept to work, you need a sound player, and the big name in the industry is Pricom. They really have this down to a science, and they're geared towards model railroaders. So this is their simplest version, which is called the Pricom Lite. And I'm just going to go through the parts that are involved. It's very simple. This goes to a power supply. This is going to inexpensive computer speakers. I'm using a push button trigger. And then the sounds are stored on an SD card, which they give you. And you just plug that SD card into your computer and put whatever sounds you want on it. In my case, it's going to be the brake wheel and three-step. Now, in terms of the trigger, I'm using a push button. The other option, if you go with their more sophisticated player, the MK2, is a stationary decoder, which sounds sophisticated on the surface, and it does have advantages, but keep in mind the number of button pushes involved. With a stationary decoder, first you have to enter the accessory mode on your throttle. That's one button push. Then you have to enter the decoder number. That's another. And then you have to trigger it. So you're now to 3 to 4 button pushes just to get the sound. So that's something to consider. It's a lot more button pushes than just the push button we have here. The advantage of the stationary decoder is if you just want to have one player and you're walking around the layout room, you can access it from different locations. So at this point, we're going to look at the brake wheel, which is just activated pretty simply with this push button. And there you go. The sound, as I mentioned before, was just a audio capture off of a YouTube video. I used Audacity, which is a free program, got it on the computer, save it as a WAV file, and just dump it on the SD card. It takes longer to explain it on this video than actually do it. It's pretty simple. So let's go through a quick example here. I'm just going to use Family and Son, which is a frequently switched food manufacturing company on the downtown spur. Operations and switching of this facility are pretty simple, so we're just going to assume a basic car pickup. So we're going to bring the locomotive in. And then he's going to stop short. And at this point, the conductor is going to get out of the cab And the brake wheel, which is here, will have been set previously on this car. So before they can pull it, the brake wheel needs to be released. And this is where the audio prop comes in. So I'm just going to use the push button on the Dream Player Lite to simulate the conductor releasing the brake wheel. So for the second example, we're going to use three-step protection, which in the past I've always represented with a pause, but in this experiment we're going to be using audio to represent the three-step process, and it's just a different sound clip. Now keep in mind that the light version will only play or only store one file, so you're going to have to go to the MK2 if you want to have multiple files. So just quickly show how this works. We're going to pull him up. And then I'm going to trigger the three-step audio that I captured from YouTube video. So hang on.
Stretch 2006, let me have three-step. All right, you do got three-step protection. All right, drop the three, I'm clear, pull.
And there you go, pretty cool. And then with the brake wheel released and the couple made, then he would just pull the car.